All right. Welcome to Big Happy Trading. It's Wednesday, the 29th. Excuse me. Lots going on today. Getting on. It's 8:57. So early in the market. There's a lot going on today. So if you're a trader, you know. Real quick, I've got on the screen here, you can see we've got I am bearish today. And I'm going to tell you why I'm bearish. First of all, we've had a run up. Yesterday was not a sell off. I know that some of the talking heads out there was not a big sell off. And I leave here right now, all time high is 72.23. And the New York low yesterday, we got down to 147, 145 here. But um, we're so close to all time highs that this is not what a real sell off looks like. And some of my, I'm not going to call them real concerns, but there's a disconnect. You've got Mag 7 earnings today. You've got FOMC at 2 o'clock today, and this is probably going to be Powell's last meeting. Could Powell, throw some kind of dagger out there at the end? And, I mean, he's not. He's just a real professional. You like him or don't like him. You can't say that he's not classy, controlled, and a true professional. So Marsh is coming in, and I don't think Marsh is going to come in and drop rates. There is 100% chance of no rate cut, possibly for the entire year. Excuse me. Let me see what my financial juice homeboy is talking about here. So lots of data coming in today. You got let's pause our music real quick. I'm using while I do my analysis here. So couple things that are kind of odd. Let's go back to the chart here. So we've got the 5 minute up on the S&P, and based on our strategy here, we could have been in here, but I'm not in any trade on this right now. The really weird correlation that's disconnecting, that has to reconnect, in my opinion, is, let's go down and look at it. Oil ripped up and is over 100. It's 103 and some change right now. And if typically when oil has been ripping, then the indices, yes, Nasdaq, they've all been dumping.
Even though we had early headlines that Netanyahu is expected to travel to the US, Netanyahu's office saying that hasn't received an invitation to the US.
Okay, so Netanyahu's not coming here. It doesn't look like there's going to be any deal on the Iran U.S. conflict anytime soon. Well, I mean, it's going to be soon because we've got to break on this thing. But oil ripping to 103.
So Netanyahu's office says no meeting has been scheduled between Netanyahu and Trump.
So no meeting. With oil going to a buck 03, I would expected this to be a harder dump. They've correlated pretty well over this since February 28th, since the conflict began. They've correlated pretty well. Now oil's going down a little bit while the S&P is going up, but with oil at a buck 03, the S&P should have been down here, at least busting through the 71.45. I've got this white line here because this is kind of a strong zone, 71.50 to to 71.45. You can see there is a lot of hits on this. So this is just for me. If we get into this range, you got some strong support here. And as usual, what I always lock out, I put, whether it's Asia or London, who marks the higher low. So Asia's high is 71.88 at 2 a.m. And we've already broken the London low today, which was, I mean, you're only talking about 22-point spread. So that's not even, that's not significant of anything. I'll leave it on there for a minute, but I don't think it's going to matter much. I like a short on oil. I'm assuming these Mag 7s, actually, I'm in a short on oil. My bad. I had an order filled. I'm in at 103.24. So I'm about break even right now. Let me make sure I put this in here. Yeah, I had an order set there for some reason. It filled. 103. I like this down to VWAP at 101. I've got it set at 101.25. I'm in at 101. I'm in at 103.25. So I think it's nice round numbers here. That's at 105. So we'll get that set here. So I probably like this better coming down to VWAP here if this comes down. Basically break even. I forgot I had set that order. Short 103.25. Looks like it went in at 8:15 a.m. somewhere in that range. Yeah, 103.25. I'm gonna go back down. Whatever it was. Anyway, we're short at 103.25. Now, all kinds of wacky news could happen and blow this thing into oblivion, but we'll see. So let's save that. Let's go back to the ES here. So yeah, if this goes up, I think there's going to be strong Mag 7 earnings, and I think it's going to drive things up. So my bias is slightly bearish based on all these things, but the one key driver that can give us a pop are going to be these Mag 7 earnings. We don't have any significant news on the Iran thing, and the market's already kind of priced that in. The market's already priced in no interest rate reductions. So I don't think there's anything crazy. So I think on the short term, even though I'm slightly bearish as based on oil and based on no deal, the Mag 7 earnings in short term, the market starves for something to go higher with, and that's that. These are just facts, Jack. I mean, I don't have any. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
China's Commerce Ministry says cybersecurity proposal abandons technological neutrality and undermines China-EU trade. Also, China's Commerce Ministry says the proposal violates WTO rules and China will take necessary measures to defend its legitimate rights.
Okay, so good to see correlation here. So S&P going up and oil is slightly dumping. So that's good, slightly going in our favor. I don't think it's going to come all the way down here. And if I get it down, if I get in this a little bit deeper, I'll put the stop to break even. I haven't traded oil for a couple months, probably a month or so. I was really getting good at capturing. If I missed a run up on the S&P, then I was catching the short on oil. So that's the correlation that's been intact is indices going up, oil goes down. Oil indices go down, oil goes up. So that looks like we're kind of seeing that same correlation right now. But let's go back. So ES, yeah. So look at like they're correlated pretty well right now. So back to normal. Let's get my music set back up and see if we can check this. I don't have my own music, so I'm listening to this smooth movement. Okay, we've got a lot of news. Lots of stuff going to happen today, so we'll see what's happening, Captain. $16 off the open. This London low is not real support, though. The significant support we want to look at here it's got to be the 71.50 to 71.45 range. If we break through that, then we got something to talk about. I still think the Mag 7 earnings we're going to be. I think we can be positive here. I mean, given all we've got, guys, we're 50 points ballpark off all-time highs, which is nothing, really. One of my rules here on the 920 EMA Cross is, and this has been one of the biggest takeaway, guys. If you want to trade this strategy,
brilliant hits 160 yen. The highest since April 7th, off of around 0.2%.
What's he saying here? Stock traders are buying the dip in technology shares as markets gear up for earnings, mega cap companies, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Going back to this, is one of the biggest things that has helped me, that I've discovered in my strategy that I've been using for 5 years, is a look back. And that's going to be your definition of look back, my definition of look back. This is where you need to, it's all context, okay? So if you're looking back, I like to do a look back. Let's just do a 5-minute look back on the previous 2 crosses, and did they work? That is really going to be a strong indicator, because if this is too choppy, it's going to be a lot of work. I'm not saying you can't make some money, but you got to be sniper. So let's look at the 5-minute. So if we got in on this cross here at 7171 and we tried to get 10 points, yeah. I mean, we could have, we set the target, we could have sniped 10 points out of this one. This cross, you're not going to be in on this big candle. You would have had to be in on a retrace, and it didn't. If it retraced and you tried to get in here on a long, it didn't work. Okay. So this one across here, this is you would. This is too ugly. You wouldn't get. Now this one did work. You got in on this cross, at early in the morning, pre-London, right before London opened, and you got in here at 71.83. I mean, you could have written this down and gotten you 21, nearly 20 points. Now, keep in mind, Asia and London typically don't move nearly as much. I mean, but so you had one that worked, one that didn't, one that worked.
According to White House official, Trump and oil companies discuss steps to continue Iran blockade for months if needed. A White House official says Trump and oil companies discuss steps to continue Iran blockade for months if needed. Seeing
well, that's going to drive oil up.
A little bit down, so maybe on S&P 500 off the back of that.
Yeah.
Tiny little move to the upside.
Okay, so Trump said we're going to continue the blockade if needed. So that's going to drive oil up, which is not good for my oil short. I got a small position there, but obviously I don't like to lose anything. But White House, Trump, oil companies discuss steps to continue Iran blockade for months if needed. That's a definite negotiating wise. That's good strategy. Like him or hate him, you float that out there that Iran has no power. U.S. is net power energy positive, which is fantastic. So I mean, it doesn't affect us, but it does affect the world, and it does. As politicians, they want to get reelected, and oil at $100 a barrel is going to cripple Americans, which is already we feel at the pump. I'm in the Midwest. Gas at four something. I don't even want to know what are gas prices.
And he did have just a headline that just came through. The White House official said Trump and oil companies discuss steps to continue the Iran blockade for months if required.
Let's go highest to lowest gas prices in USA. Let's see what we come up with. All right, so California is $6 a holy monkey sticks. Yeah, oil's going up now through the roof, which is not good based on that announcement. That's hopefully it's a short term that comes back. So California, no shock. Hawaii. Now this is for when they list this. This is for the lowest grade, which I don't use. I use the medium grade, which is more expensive than this, but this is the lowest. So Oklahoma's the lowest. Yeah, so where we are in the Midwest, it's probably for the regular unleaded, it's probably in this 380, 390 range. But it's like 80 cents more if you go to the next, 79, 92 or whatever it is, the octane. So anyway. Wow, so if you try to use a medium grade in California, that would be painful. Because they put taxes on taxes on taxes on everything. That's going to be ugly. That's going to drive. Let's see what's happening here. Let's get out of here. Let's see what's happening. ES is probably dumping on that news. Yeah. So Trump news. Oil's going up. It's not ripping, but it's going up.
Emerging market currencies extend losses as oil price passes $116 per barrel. Getting off the back of that, we had White House officials said Trump and oil companies discuss steps to continue the Iran blockade for months if needed.
Well, I got an echo on my financial juice guy. That's unusual. I don't usually see that. Yeah, so nothing, not shocking news, posturing, but the market looks for anything it can. That would have been a nice time for a quick short on the ES based on news, which I don't like to do. But going back to strategy here. Market opens in 6 minutes. I think we may get a rip down, then a pull up to the 71.50 range, 71.45 range. It's a 20-point drop. So they dropped that news right before the market opened. So as traders, what do you do with that? You sit on your hands is what I do. The only thing I like about not like, I guess I should say that differently. These politicians, Trump and all of them, doesn't matter left, right, whatever. They want to get reelected, and they know that you have oil that's going to continue up here at 103, $104 a barrel. You're not going to get reelected, and the midterms are coming up soon. So this is on their plate to float out good news or something happens to control the price of oil. And he's aware of that. He's got people in his ear that, hey, listen, you got to say something positive because, how you're going to get it down. But this is not good for, it's not good for the world, not just Americans. It's not good for the world. But oil's ripping now. Let's see if we get some kind of correlation. Oil's at 104.
So reminder from last night's news, Wall Street Journal reported that Trump instructed agents to get ready for a prolonged Iran blockade. So of course, we just had a headline just not too long ago about White House officials saying Trump and oil companies discuss steps to continue the Iran blockade for months if needed.
Again, I think that's just negotiating, which you got to be in a strong position. So the Iranians took nuclear off the table.
Dollar index extending gains as the yen hitting the highest since March 30th, last of about 0.3%.
So I would like to have been in this short a 1 minute cross, 167. I mean, we're down four ticks. It's nothing. But going back to the strategy, nothing would have taken you out. If you were in here at 71.75, this would have scared you coming back up, but you would have had your stop still set to break even. It wouldn't have taken you out. I would have just taken my 10 points and called it a day on this trade, given where this volatile. And I traded yesterday pre-market. If you see my video from yesterday, I was in and got a good 26-point move to the upside based off
Treasury
this.
yields extend climb, 10-year hitting the highest since March 30th.
I got in off this bounce, what I consider pretty strong level here. At you see there's a lot. That's a pretty strong level, and I just got it marked out here. So that's where I got in yesterday pre-market, and then I wrote it up for 26 points, and it kind of reversed and yeah, minor sell-off. It wasn't a major sell-off. All right, we're about to open here. Let me go to the 1 minute so we can see.
$10. Market imbalance. S&P 500 buy side 149 million. Nasdaq 100 buy side 2.2 million. Now the sell side 8.5 million.
Oh, his voice. I don't know if it's mine or the guy's voice is really jarbled.
Set up users, which going to restart stream. Give it about 30 seconds.
Yeah, I think I kind of is slightly bearish where I think we would come down. I think this level here, we come down into this level. I think there's some fairly strong support. But I think most of the Mag 7 earnings are going to be positive. So, and I'm not doing anything. I'm just sitting on my hands now. If anything, I would have been in a short here, being that's my oil's still climbing based on this going down. So that correlation is there. Not really climbing fast, but it's climbing. RSI, this is way over sold here on the one. Let's go to the 5 minute. This gets me a little better. Yeah, we're dumping down here.
Starbucks rises as much as 5.1%, the most intraday since January 28th.
If we come down in the zone in this 140, 150, I'm willing to take a flyer even without, just kind of based on a reversal for a small position. Yesterday it came down and I got in around 151. I don't know if we're going to come down here and get down to 150. We'll see. Oil's creeping up. It's at 104.60, something like that. But I'm watching the ES because this is where I want to make a trade. These zones are not exact, guys. I mean, when I say I'd like to get down here, that's why I kind of have between here and here. I wanted to see it come down below 170, 150. That's where I'd like to see. We may or may not get down there, but we're 3 minutes into the open, so let's see what happens. No, I didn't get any of that, brother. Even though that was my thesis, I didn't get any of it. Did you get in that? You got that short? I should have gotten it. I should have been in here earlier. Like I said, on this cross. I know. So I said, look at the. I mean, I should have been in this, but I wasn't. It did. I know. I know.
10 minutes ago now, we get the Bank
5 minute or 1 minute?
decision. Forecast no change by 2.25%. And we get the Bank of Canada rate stable as well, and the monetary policy report. And then later on at 10:30, we get the Bank of Canada press conference for Macron.
Yeah, you got out early. Hey, listen, if you got yours and you stay consistent, base hits. Yeah, both 1 minute and 5 minute gave the signal here. It's 1 minute. This was a big strong candle, but you could have gotten back in here. Yesterday I got it. Remember I got in yesterday pre-market and got 26 points out. Early in the trade, but today I'm not in anything. I got an oil short going, which is bad because Trump just said he's going to do everything else. So I may have already been stopped out. I'll look at that in a minute. But I had a real small position on that. I'm bearish, and my bias. You see, I always share my bias here. My bias is bearish. FOMC, I think, is going to be nothing burger because no interest. There's going to be no rate reduction probably for the whole year. But I don't know what Powell's going to say this last meeting. Is he going to do some kind of sniping? He's a real professional. I don't think he will. And I think the Mag 7 earnings is the only thing holding this up. And I like this long. I was hoping to come and tap in this 71.50 to 71.45 range. And we may still get that. This is not looking strong at all. But now I got to be patient. Yeah, Powell's on at 2:00. This should be his last FOMC meeting. And then I see the correlation. If this goes up, oil goes down. To me, this was a long here. Am I in love with it? Not on the cross. So the play was short. I'm glad you got some of it. One of us, getting a little bit of sugar. I used to have real regret when I would miss a trade. Just the psychology. If I can get one in my pocket early, it just sets the tone of patience and it sets the tone. I can risk a little more, but I am also more patient. I know it sounds contradictory, but like yesterday, I took that flyer on that 1 minute and got in a trade that could have been huge. It was a break even, but I'll take more of those trades when I've got 30 points in my pocket. And with all of this going on, oil is at $100 a barrel. We're still, 50 points off the all-time high? 60 points, something like that? It's ridiculous. An all-time high is 72.23, and what are we at? 71.60? Yeah, so 60 points off all-time highs. My brain is still not wrapping around all of this. Oh, Dow was dumping hard. That was a good short there. Yeah, we can't we can't have oil at $100 a barrel for too long. There's got to be something done on the price of oil. And the bigger thing, and I was reflecting on this earlier, politicians, Trump, all of them, Republican, Democrat, doesn't matter. They all want to get reelected, and you don't get reelected.
Speaking to House Armed Services Committee about the budget they proposed.
You don't get reelected with oil at 100.
10 a.m. Eastern time when that's supposed to be happening.
Voice users, please refresh the stream. That's why he's echoing.
But we do have the video of him on the National Center of the Economic Calendar. Just click. Also, about less than 5 minutes ago now, or 3 minutes ago, to give the Bank of Canada rate decision forecasted for no change prior 2.25%. Get the monetary policy report and the rate statement as well. And then later on, 10:30, we get the Bank of Canada press conference with Maxim.
Yeah, I don't know what's gonna. Are you in a trade now at all or no? Yeah, the problem is though, until they put term limits in. I used to live in California. Maxine Waters runs the most corrupt and dirty district. Nancy Pelosi, San Francisco is a crap hole. Maxine manages Compton, Gardena. That if you've ever been there, that's like third world war zone. I lived in Orange County, like 40 minutes from there. But when I was a young salesman, that was my territory: Gardena, Compton, lots of parts of West LA. And man, even back in the day, 100 years ago, it was super dangerous and scary, and it's like even worse now. So those politicians, and she's been in there for 50 years, and they're all multi bajillionaires, right? Insider trading, all the deals, everything they get. So there needs to be term limits. You got 8 years for a president, make it 12 years for these congressmen and senate people. And then you get fresh people in there who are going to do the right thing. And if they don't, at least you can get them out after 12 years. But then they have the power whether they're going to vote on it or not. That's the problem. You're giving the power to the guys that are in power and getting the benefits. So they spend 10.
Citing sources, the oil sector officials expressed their support for Trump's measures regarding Iran. cited by AJ breaking. Again, being cited out to zero there.
So the people voting on term limits are the people that are actually benefiting from it. So who's going to vote themselves out of a cheesecake job?
10 seconds to Bank of Canada.
I'm suspecting with this hardline position today, Trump's saying that.
No change. No change. Rate remains unchanged at 2.25% as expected.
Okay, so
Bank of Canada says Q1 output gap estimated in the range of minus 1.5 to minus 0.5, unchanged from January. Forecast assumes US tariff remains unchanged and oil prices gradually decline to $75 a barrel by mid-2027. Annualized Q1 GDP seen at 1.5% compared to prior 1.8% in January. Q2 predicted to be 1.5%. Nominal neutral interest rate is estimated to be in the range of 2.25 to 3.25%, unchanged from January. Potential output growth in this year seen at 1.2% versus 1% in January, 1.3% in 2027 versus 1% in January. 1% in January. Most measures of annual wage growth are between 3 and 3.5%. There may still need to be just adjustment to policy rate depending on how risk evolves. Malcolm says if the economy evolves broadly in line with base case, changes in policy rate.
Oh, here we come.
If high energy,
we're down in the zone. If this doesn't hold,
inflation, we may need consecutive rises in policy rate. If the US imposes significant new trade restrictions, we may need to cut policy rate further. Uncertainty is elevated, and monetary policy may need to be nimble. If also, Malcolm says this is because higher global oil prices increase value of energy exports as they squeeze consumers and businesses. Malcolm goes on to say that impact of Middle East war overall is expected to be small.
I'm doing the same ideas. I'm taking a flyer here
on the USMCA trade discussions, Middle East war, and the impact of US tariffs and energy prices.
With a real tight stop. So
just keeping an eye on the Canadian dollar. I did see a little bit of weakness on the back of the rate decision in the Canadian dollar.
So we're at 71.
The Canadian dollar weakening against the US dollar after the Bank of Canada rate decision, down about 0.1% on the day now. Again, just a key comment from Bank of Canada looking at the Q1 GDP seen at 1.5% versus 1.8% in January. UK's Manchester Mayor Burnham says he's not ruling out seeking parliamentary seat again.
Yeah, this is not one of my better plays, but I'm risking a few points. So if that level doesn't hold, we're obviously going to come down and take out this, even that spike. So we'll see. Real small size here.
Germany's 2-year yields rising 7 basis points to about 2.716%, 3-week high.
These politicians, man, they just all want to get elected. I mean, the nice thing about Trump is he really doesn't need the money, but if he doesn't get control of oil, then the Republicans lose control, and they all make decisions that are better for themselves, good or bad, or left, right. One thing I don't like about, well, there's a lot of things I don't like about politics, but that's one of them. But the world's never going to have another chance right now to get for the. I feel for the Iranian people. I mean, they've killed 50,000, 100,000 of their own people over the past several months, and I have friends that are from Iran that hate the IRGC, and they still have family in Tehran. One of my buddies, he has family in Tehran, and he can't even he hasn't heard from them in a month because it's dark. And when he does, they all 90% of the people hate the leadership, but if you go against them, they kill you. It's just this is crazy. So I don't know if we're gonna have another chance to ever, not to get political, but I don't know if we're gonna have another chance to ever save the Iranian people than we do now. I don't know. So this thing gets in my favor here up, 7, 8 points. I may move the stop to break even. This is a pretty strong level from going back. I'm not saying it can't be broken, but if nothing tragic is said and Mag 7 earnings are fairly strong, we know that there's going to be, yeah, innocent people dying everywhere is just makes me, it's just, and us Americans, we think we have it so rough. You can say or do anything you want, and um, there's people in these other countries that literally have fear for their lives, and people they love are being killed. I saw a video of when Iran murdered 30, 50,000 people, there were families going through looking in body bags laying everywhere for their children that were protesting, their young people. My heart, being a dad, I just, I can't imagine the pain
So
that
reminder at the top
those
of the hour,
parents felt. I don't, there's,
the video is popped down the feed for you to watch.
I got two sons, and my sons, them, I mean, I tell them we have to be thankful that we live in one of the freest countries in the world. You can say whatever you want. You can talk about your government, but if you do that in China, you do that, you disappear. They call it in China. My wife is from Taiwan, so Taiwan's free. You can criticize the government in Taiwan, just like America. There's no consequence. No one's coming to get you. That's why the Taiwanese people are so adamant about being independent. But in China, they call it having tea with the government. So if you talk bad about the government, they come and invite you to tea, which is not really an invite. They come to your house and you're never to be seen again. These are real stories, and my wife and my wife's family and different people have all told me, like, and who do you tell? Who do you say something to? There's just but anyway. Oh yeah, there's a lot of things that we don't do that's good. I mean, there's there's no perfect leadership, but the checks and balances are still good enough to where you get bad actors, The biggest problem we have is term limits. That's it. I mean, if you put limits in, the system can cleanse itself of the selfish. Because I think there's a lot of good senators and congresswomen, men and women that go in with good intentions, and man, once they get a taste that they can be rich and do things, I mean, I think that corrupts them. And if they had a term limit of 12 years where they know they're not going to be in there for forever, that especially near the end of the term, they'd start doing the right thing rather than the selfish thing. That's just my opinion. But man, I think that would solve a lot of our USA's problems and keep down the dirty, the dirty pool that these politicians do. Man, it's just ugly. And every time you mention term limits or Trump's mentioned term limits, everyone, all the other, they turn their head and cough, and no one wants to respond. Uh, there's a few people who go, "Hey, I'd vote for it," but there's no bill coming to the floor to go vote on term limits because that's going to be because that's going to make them all look bad. If you don't vote for it, then your constituents are going to go, "Well, you're part of the problem. You're a dirty rat." I don't know how long ago I went long. Was about 10 minutes ago. It's called 9:45. All right, so I'm long at 71.52. Got a target set at 71.72. I don't trust this market at all. I think I think I did. I moved my stop to break even already. I think I did.
It's reminded that a couple of minutes' time, Hegseth is due to speak to about the budget that he proposed, or that the US administration had proposed.
I'm not moving my stop to break even as I got such small risk. I think it could tap down in here again and go back up. Pretty strong level. We've been tapping it a lot of taps. We came down there and hit this 71.50. Look at how many times we've been down here in this range. You see the support line I'm talking about here going back. We're going back to the Tuesday. Pretty strong level. Going back to I mean we've been this has been pretty strong support. And I got the Friday low at wick down to 71.45. That goes way back here. So anyway, that was previous Friday, which is same thing. It's this to me. It's levels or ranges. They're not to the dollar as we know. So I think this is a oops, moved it. Hold on, 71. 71.52, close enough. 71.52. Yeah, I'm not trusting this at all. I don't think anything Hegseth says on the budget should move the markets, but it could. Let me see where we're at here. Pause this. Let's see what Pistol Pete has to say.
Committee in recess at any point. Before we begin, I want to remind those in the audience that this hearing is open to the public, but actions that disrupt or distract the proceedings will not be tolerated. The chair reserves the right to remove disruptive persons from the hearing. The U.S. Capitol Police are on hand to assist with that task, and I thank them for their service. One housekeeping note before we get started. We are expecting to be called to the House floor for votes around 10:30. We'll go as long as we can up until those votes, and then I ask members to come back as soon as they can after voting. Upon conclusion, I also want to ask members, when you're entering and leaving the chamber, because there's hearings going on all across the Capitol.
Treasury yields extend climb, reaching highest levels since March.
Through the side door. Those doors make a lot of racket when you come in and out, so ingress and egress through the anteroom. All right, with that, I want to welcome our witnesses and thank them for their service to our nation. We are meeting today to review the Pentagon's FY27 budget request. Each year, the budget presentation gives us the opportunity to take a hard look at the threats we face and our ability to deter and defeat them. It helps us decide on a level of investment that will actually secure our homeland and protect our interests across the globe. Here are the facts that underlie this year's budget request. We are confronting an unprecedented global threat environment with multiple adversaries working together to undermine our security and that of our allies. They are building alliances and supporting each other with drones, munitions, missile technology, and energy supplies. And China is leading the charge against us. As you can see from this graphic,
can you hear this guy speaking well?
The PLA was just a defensive force with little ability to project the power beyond their borders. Today, the PLA is a modernized military force capable of projecting power well into the Pacific. Their rapid military buildup has delivered thousands of new ships, subs, missiles, and space assets that severely challenge our ability to safeguard our national security interest in the Indo-Pacific. China continues to invest heavily in the PLA's military modernization, announcing another 7% increase in defense spending this year. As a result, they are spending more of their GDP on defense than we are. In fact, as you can see from this graphic, all of our adversaries are spending more of their GDP on defense than we are. Meanwhile, our defense spending as a percentage of GDP has been steadily falling since World War II. That yellow line that you see on the graph cutting across, that bar represents 4 to 5% of GDP spending. History has shown that meeting or exceeding that level of investment ensures we can truly deter our adversaries. That's also the level of investment we're asking our allies to make. But for years, we've chosen not to make that same level of investment ourselves. Since World War II, defense spending has shrunk significantly as a percentage of federal outlays, as you can see from the red line on that chart. Nonetheless, non-defense spending, on the other hand, accounts for over 85%, and it's been increasing for that same period of time. This underinvestment in our defense has had very real consequences. Our defense industrial base, long the envy of the world, has atrophied significantly. We're no longer capable of manufacturing for our warfighters at scale or speed. Just look at shipbuilding. China builds 47% of the world's ships. The U.S. builds 0.1%. We build fewer ships than Croatia or the Netherlands. Our global munition stockpiles are low, and we lack the capacity to rapidly restock magazine depth. We have very little industrial capacity to mine, refine, or process critical minerals. As a result, many of our defense supply chains are reliant on the very adversaries we seek to deter. Beyond the impact to our industrial base, the inadequate investment in our defense has resulted in a vicious cycle that has pitted sustainment against modernization. For years, administration after administration comes to this committee with budgets asking us to decommission weapon systems that they admit we still need, or to cut funding for training, parts, and supplies, or to put off needed maintenance to the facilities where our service members live and work, or to reduce the number of military personnel. These budgets have asked us to make these sacrifices and accept the near-term risk so we could afford to reinvest in military modernization, which is something we desperately need to do. But we in Congress consistently rejected this mutually exclusive choice. Instead, we divided up the limited budget we were given and made a worse choice. We underfunded both sustainment and modernization. The result is we don't have enough munitions, ships, aircraft, or autonomous systems to ensure dominance against every adversary. And the ships and aircraft we do have suffer from unacceptably low mission-capable rates. Fortunately, that's about to change. This president has requested a historic $1.5 trillion budget for our national defense. For the first time in over 40 years, we've been presented a budget that accounts for the true cost of American deterrence. This budget fully funds both sustainment and modernization. It provides a 24% increase in operation and maintenance, including a 20% increase in core readiness programs like flight hours and combat.
Chinese diplomat says China and the EU held a meeting on rare earth export controls on March 23rd as part of an upgraded mechanism. Two sides agreed to continue in-depth discussions on export control.
It increases military end strength by 44,000 and provides for a historic pay raise for our service members. It calls for an unprecedented 76% increase in procurement and 64% increase in research and development. This will enable us to truly catch up in our modernization efforts by quickly fielding new
Senate is voting on Fed Chair nominee Walsh.
Space and autonomous systems to replenish and expand our arsenal. It directly confronts the challenges in our defense industrial base with over $100 billion in investments to revitalize manufacturing, expand domestic and allied critical minerals projects, and secure our supply chains. Finally, this level of investment gets defense back to 4.5%. That's where we need to be. We want to truly deter conflict. It also ensures that America leads by example as our allies heed the president's call to increase their defense spending and improve their military readiness. I would also note that it's critical that we do not reduce the deterrence while we're asking our allies to ramp up their own capacity. And that's something we're going to be paying a lot of attention to in this committee. Before I close my remarks, I want to highlight the bravery, dedication, and professionalism of our warfighters throughout this conflict with Iran. Their tremendous work to achieve the very clear military objectives of this operation has given the president the opening he needs to negotiate a true and lasting peace that will ensure Iran never acquires a nuclear weapon. Mr. Secretary, General Kane, thank you for being here. I look forward to hearing how this budget request will ensure our military can preserve American deterrence for generations to come.
Iran's Deputy Foreign Minister Gary Babardi says that some neighboring governments cannot be considered neutral.
I want to start by agreeing with you on the last point. Our troops have performed incredibly well in the last 15 months. They have been asked to do more than anyone expected.
It's quoted being cited there by
the incredible capability of the United States military. I think we should all recognize that. Even if we question the strategy, some of the decisions behind it, our troops deserve nothing but our praise for the incredible job that they have done. It has not been perfect. Certainly mistakes have been made, but we have demonstrated to the world that we have a highly capable military. And I hear the chairman on the need for an increased
also,
budget.
Babardi
I think
said
there's a whole lot of needs across the United
further
States
points to support of some regional nations for the military aggression against Iran by providing territory, facilities, and military installations located within these nations, noting with provision of this support, which has also been documented, some neighboring governments cannot be considered neutral governments.
That lives within a sound fiscal picture. Most experts would say
Forge Fed nomination has enough committee votes to advance.
National security right now is exactly that. It is our fiscal picture. How are we going to continue to be able to afford to fund the things we need to fund?
Russia says they're going to continue working with partners in OPEC+.
About is the Pentagon has not yet passed an audit. If we give them what is roughly a 50 to 60% increase, is that money going to be well spent? We have every reason to doubt that. Now, I will say, and I praise the chairman of this committee and the bipartisan
nominee was approved by Senate Banking Committee, advances to full Senate vote.
I think last year's bill put us on a good trajectory to get to the point where we can, in fact, innovate faster at scale. I also believe the Pentagon has been working on that. We've had many meetings with Deputy Secretary Feinberg, who is focused on that, but we got a long way to go. Can the Pentagon really absorb another $500–600 billion, depending on what the supplemental and reconciliation package are? I don't think so. We need to pay as much attention to how we're spending the money as to how much we're spending, and we never seem to do that. But the larger problem is the strategy that has been put before us. I looked through the Secretary's remarks, and I've heard you give speeches before about this, about how realism is our strategy. And I find that absurd, and given what we are doing. You can say a lot of things about the strategy, but calling it realistic? We started a full-scale war in the Middle East against Iran to try to reshape the Middle East. Now, we can talk about that in a bunch of different ways, but it is the exact opposite of realism.
So according to Babardi's reports in regards to Walsh, the vote was along party lines. Instead of Walsh's nomination for full vote, when the Senate returns after its May 4th recess.
Strategy that this administration has criticized over and over and over again. And yet here we are in a full-scale Mideast war, and we've seen the costs of that. Certainly at the top of that list is 13 service members killed and hundreds wounded, but it goes way beyond that thousands of civilians have been killed. Over a dozen countries now have been dragged into this war in one way or another. The Israel-Lebanon war has.
Let's see if we break through this VWAP here,
now have a
which I'd like to see.
Militias in Iraq and Kurdistan that is straining, to put it mildly, our relationship with Iraq, and also causing greater chaos throughout the Middle East. We see the impact on the economy. Certainly here at home, gas prices up by over $1. The impact of the fertilizer increase is going to come later as food prices skyrocket. But what is happening to us is a small part of what's happening to the rest of the world. Certainly the Middle East's economy has been tossed up in the air, but dozens of countries are rationing gasoline as we speak and experiencing extreme economic pain because of this war. So there's nothing realistic about that. And one of the big questions that we need to get answered today is, where is this going? What is the plan to achieve our objectives? We've seen the cost, and the cost is very, very high. All we keep hearing on the objectives is we keep seeing all of the targets that we have struck. And again, that is an incredible accomplishment from a tactical standpoint. I think the proficiency of our military has been on display, but we're not in this for a tactical advantage. We're in this to fundamentally change Iran. And as we sit here today, Iran's nuclear program is exactly what it was before this war started. They have not lost their capacity to inflict pain. They still have a ballistic missile program. They're still able to blockade the Strait of Hormuz and have the ships that are capable of doing that. What is the plan to get that to change? And most disturbingly, the president keeps telling us that it's over. What was it, a week ago Friday, the president announced that Iran had agreed.
According to IPO filing here, Musk can only be removed from SpaceX board for officer roles by vote of the shared class
literally none of that was true. He was completely making
also
it up.
seen Germany's 10-year bond yield touching 3.1%, the high since March 30th, thus up around 3.08%, up by 2 basis points in a day.
Had to keep going back and forth to the airport. We never even had a meeting. So wish fulfillment is not really a strategy. I mean, maybe the president thinks he's doing some sort of Jedi mind trick and can tell Iran, you will give up your nuclear weapons, and they automatically will, but that's not working. So what we need to hear today is what is going to work. We have 50,000 troops in the region who are still at risk. How are those tactical victories going to translate into some sort of strategic success? And by the way, this is one of the things that realism recognizes. You can win a whole lot of little small battles.
From this end, SpaceX is telling investors that no one can fire Musk from his role as CEO, chairman of the board, without the billionaire founder's consent.
We're doing all of this
according to an excerpt of its IPO filing.
Push away all of our allies. Sometimes just because we want to do what we want to do, but we don't want to have to consult them. Sometimes just gratuitously insulting them. I mean, in the middle of this war where we were asking NATO to come join us, the president took time out to insult President Macron and his wife. Okay, how is that helping us to try and belittle everybody in the world?
Break that VWAP right there.
For the people who are criticizing NATO over this war, I will remind people that NATO is a defensive alliance. What that means is every country in it pledges to defend a country if attacked. And when we were attacked on 9/11, that's what NATO did. They put in Article 5, and for 20 years they fought beside us. NATO is not if any one of the countries decides to unilaterally and unwisely start a war precipitously that everyone else is supposed to join. That's not the way it works. So berating and belittling our allies after we did that and driving them ever further away from us, how is that realistic? Not only are we going to try to reshape the Middle East, but we're going to do it alone while we're pushing everybody away from us. And then we have other tools in our arsenal. You see that those numbers on the budget, but the State Department's really important. Development is really important. These are ways to achieve our ends, and we have moved away from that. We got rid of the entire USAID, literally causing the starvation of children in countries where we had pledged to provide food, causing massive healthcare disruptions, people literally dying.
Oh, this is what I hate about politicians.
We have sidelined, again, the entire world. France and the UK have brought together 44 different countries that have an interest in trying to open up.
USAID was
pushed them all aside.
Hundreds of billions of dollars that were stolen from taxpayers.
Talented State Department. I praise today the talent of our military.
Yeah, we shouldn't listen to this dude. I don't know.
Deserve that praise. Our diplomatic corps deserves that praise too. But we shoved them all to the side in favor of two real estate guys who are going to go negotiate all the deals in the world, which to date, by the way, has yielded exactly nothing. So there's something realistic about starting a war in the Middle East, going it alone, and pushing aside all diplomacy and all development and all other tools in our arsenal. And on top of that, of course, we also want to dominate the entire Western Hemisphere, including apparently annexing Canada and invading Greenland. How is any of that realistic? And then the administration comes before us and asks for what is a hopelessly unrealistic budget in this environment. Back on that chart there, when we were showing how much money we were spending on defense, we had a balanced budget. We had a surplus many years. We don't have that anymore. So call this strategy whatever you want to call it, but please don't call it realism. It's not. Forgive me, it reminds me of one of my favorite lines from A Princess Bride. It's a tense morning. I want to lighten it up a little bit. But the guy keeps saying inconceivable when things happen. And finally, the guy says to him, "You keep using that word. I don't think you know what it means. I don't think we know."
I don't like this rejection here, but let's see.
So please, can we not have the realism conversation? Let's have the conversation about what the strategy actually is. And I'm sure you have a different definition of it than I do. But as I look at it, the strategy seems to be to use as much violence, as much threats, as much coercion as possible to bend the world to our will. I think that is a very dangerous strategy because one of the oldest cliches in the military is the enemy gets a vote. And we may think that we can stand up and talk tough and talk about how strong we are and how we're burying our enemies and they're begging for a deal. We can do that all day long.
10 minutes ago now to get the Bank of Canada press conference with Macklem. We'll get a video on the feed shortly. And we'll skip the EA crude oil inventories. Forecast is for a draw of 0.19 million pet prior to build of 1.25 million. Gasoline inventory is expecting a draw of 2.785 million. Prior was a draw of 4.57 million. Distilled inventory is expecting a draw of 2.15 million. Prior was a draw of 3.427 million. Crude Cushing inventories prior was a build of 0.806 million.
And human traffickers over here, they all are trying to weaken us. All right.
So looking at the range of crude oil inventories, we're expecting a range of a build of 3 million to a draw of 2 million.
But if what we're saying to the rest of the world is stick with us because we're a better.
So Monday last night with the API data, API crude oil stock change came in at a draw of 1.79 million. PET expected build of 0.3 million. And prior of that was a draw of 4.47 million.
When the president
we have also posted the video
kill off an entire civilization. That is the message coming out of the United States of America. If we are going to be this big, powerful force that throws our weight around the world wants to know at a minimum that we're doing it for the right reasons and with a sense of values to protect people, not to destroy entire civilizations. And we all hear that and we all go, well, gosh, he probably doesn't mean it. Well, that is so reassuring, okay, that he's just making it up. We're supposed to be the United States of America. I grew up on stories of the U.S. at the end of World War II being the country that the Germans wanted to surrender to, not the Russians, because they knew they could trust our values. We don't seem to care about those values. No rules of engagement. Give them no quarter, all right? That is not who we are supposed to be. And just one final point on that, the girls' school that got hit in the first days of this war, there is absolutely no question at this point what happened. We made a mistake, and that happens in war. We identified this target based on earlier charts, and yet 2 months after it happened, we refused to say anything about it, giving the world the impression that we just don't care. We do not care about the casualties and the chaos that is caused by our war, and we should care, even if we want to prosecute that war. Now, I agree with the chairman. We need a strategy. We face the most complex threat environment that we face in a very, very long time. So we really want to hear from the administration. Don't give us this realism, chest-thumping stuff. What are we really going to do to meet those threats, to deal with the challenges we face? And I'll close just by saying, one of the other ironies of this, of course, is we have a great example in the world right now of what our strategy should be and where our values should be. And that's Ukraine. And I'm really curious, here we are, we roll out the red carpet for Vladimir Putin. We belittle and insult President Zelensky in the White House. He has no cards, right? Well, here we are a year after that. Looks like he had a couple cards to play because Ukraine is actually winning against Russia. Ukraine, a sovereign democracy standing up against a brutal, oppressive, coercive dictatorship. And we can't even bring ourselves on a consistent basis to say, we are with Ukraine and we are against what Putin is doing and stand up and support them. So I want to see that strategy to meet the complex threat environment that we have. But simply saying we've already won and boasting and bragging and trying to belittle and insult the entire world, that's not going to get us to the posture that we need. So I hope we have a conversation about how we can build a strategy that makes sense and is actually realistic. With that, I yield back.
I thank the ranking member for his opening statement. Now I'd like to introduce our witnesses. And we have the Honorable Pete Hegseth, Secretary of War, General Dan Kane, Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and they are being accompanied by Mr. Jay Hurst, Acting Chief Financial Officer and Comptroller for the Department. I also want to welcome the Secretary's wife, Jennifer. Welcome to our hearing. Glad to have you here with us today. And with that, Mr. Secretary, we'll start with you. Please recognize.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ranking Member Smith, distinguished members of the committee, we appreciate the opportunity to testify in full support of President Trump's historic $1.5 trillion fiscal year 2027 budget request for the Department of War. The President's budget request reflects the urgency of the moment, addressing both the deferment of long-standing problems as well as positioning our forces for both the current
Hegseth says
and
defense. About 5 minutes ago now to get the crude oil inventories.
I'm honored to appear alongside General Dan Kane, Chairman of the Joint Chiefs
EA
of Staff,
crude oil
as well as
inventories
Jay Hurst, our
forecast
Comptroller,
is for a drop of
Chief Financial
0.19 million, price to build of
By thanking this
1.925
committee
million. Gasoline
and Congress
inventory
for your partnership
forecast for a draw
in
of
securing the investments
3.785
needed for
million.
a stronger,
Prior was a draw
prouder,
of
and more
4.57 million.
secure
Distillate
America.
inventories
What
forecast
our
for a
troops
draw
have
of
demonstrated to the
2.15 million.
world over the last
Price to
few
draw of
months are a
3.427 million.
reflection of
In crude Cushing inventories, prior was a
a nation's
build of
ability to build,
0.806
innovate,
million.
and support the critical needs
Also,
of
my
its
no
warfighters
expected here from
at
BCB's
speed
book.
and at scale is the foundation upon which its survival rests. However, upon taking office on January 20th, 2025, President Trump inherited a defense industrial base that had been hollowed out by years of America last policies, resulting in a diminished ability to project strength. Under the previous administration, we were focused on offshoring and outsourcing, riddled with cost overruns and degraded capabilities. Under the leadership of President Trump, our builder-in-chief, we are reversing this systemic decay and putting our defense industrial base back on a wartime footing. If you ask anyone at our Pentagon, urgency informs everything we do. We're rebuilding a military that the American people can be proud of, one that instills nothing less than unrelenting fear in our adversaries and the utmost confidence in our allies. We fight to win in every scenario. The $1.5 trillion FY27 budget put forward by the President will build upon the historic $1 trillion FY26 top line and continue to reverse the 4 years of underinvestment and mismanagement of the Biden administration. The $1.5 trillion budget will ensure the United States continues to maintain the world's most powerful and capable military as we grapple with a complex threat environment across multiple theaters. Not to mention, this budget also includes a historic troop pay increase, 7% for lower enlisted, and the budget eliminates all poor or failing barracks. Quality of life for our troops is front and center in this budget as well. By supercharging and transforming how the department does business, we're restoring American commercial dominance at a pace unseen in generations, transforming the defense industrial base from a broken, slow-moving system of the past. We have flipped the Pentagon acquisition process from a bureaucratic model to a business model, 180, decisively moving from an acquisition environment paralyzed by bureaucratic red tape into an outcomes-driven organization focused on delivering the most at cost, at scale for taxpayer dollars. Over the past year, through historic multi-year procurement agreements, smart business deals for things like critical munitions and capabilities, we've sent an unambiguous demand signal to industry partners to build more and build faster. The result has been a surge, a revitalization of our great factories, and a massive reinvestment in the skilled American workers who serve as the industrial muscle behind our warriors. Let me briefly provide you with some concrete high-level metrics of what's been accomplished over just the past few months. These are announced new facilities and investments to support American warfighters. The department has helped stimulate more than 250 private investment deals
in 39 states, in 180 cities, in 150 companies worth more than $50 billion. It's resulted in 280 new or expanded facilities, with 18 million new square feet of American manufacturing, and more than 70,000 new jobs in defense. This is the key part of this. These $50 billion of investment in new plants, new assembly lines, and new factories, these are private investments, not taxpayer dollars. By changing our department's, transforming our department's business model, American companies are investing in America with their own money, their own capital, a historic demonstration of American manufacturing and defense revitalization, all again with their capital, not Uncle
Minus it's a draw of
This has never been done
6.234
before,
million, a draw of
and is long
6.234
overdue
million,
from a
had the
bureaucratic
expected draw
model
of
to a business model.
0.19 million,
Anyone on the
gasoline
outside
inventory is a
looking
draw
in
of
at what's been done
6.075 million,
inside this
had the
Pentagon
expected
in the
draw
last
of
12 months
2.785
cannot
million.
deny
The selling
fundamental
inventory is
transformation
a
at
draw
speed, at
4.494 million,
scale,
had
and
the
meet
expected
the
draw
pressing
of
today, tomorrow.
2.15 million.
These investments
Crude cushing
equal great
inventory is a
things for
draw
America,
of
American families,
0.796
and
million.
American workers, and help to
Concerned
ensure that
that
our
this
warfighters are able to defend the
retraced to
American
this
dream.
level
Bigger than
pre-market.
expected draw across the board there.
Together with the help
Could be
of the
some
policies,
resistance.
updates, and appropriations passed by Congress, President Trump's War Department has begun to turn the lights back on in manufacturing towns across this country, and once again, forging a lethal arsenal of freedom. Where critical supply chains are threatened, the War Department has acted decisively to inject capital, stimulate production, and prevent adversarial exploitation. We are firing up the American economic engine and at every level of our defense industrial base. Every policy we pursue, every
Well, those
budgetary
oil
item
inventories
we
came in
request serves
negative.
to
That's
ensure
not
that
good.
The department remains laser focused on increasing lethality and survivability of our forces from the front lines.
I may take my 15 points on this thing.
This is a historic.
If this
budget
doesn't
exercise,
bounce
Mr.
off the
Chairman.
1 minute, off the
This is a
20, I'm gonna
fiscally
just take my money and run.
This is a warfighting budget. And speaking of warfighting, the topic of Iran, I'm sure will come up today, which I very much welcome discussing. I look forward to sharing the incredible successes of our military, achieved in a matter of weeks. President Trump, unlike other presidents, has had the courage to ensure Iran never gets a nuclear weapon, and he's ironclad in that. We're the best negotiator in the world driving that deal. The biggest challenge, the biggest adversary we face at this point are the reckless, feckless, and defeatist words
We have
Congressional
considered the weekly
Democrats
inventories report on the
and
feed
some
weekly report.
Republicans 2 months in. I remind you, 2 months in to a conflict. Lest I remind you, and my generation understands how long we were in Iraq, how long we were in Afghanistan, how long we were in Vietnam. 2 months in on an existential fight for the safety of the American people, Iran cannot have a nuclear bomb. We are proud of this undertaking. I am proud that President Trump has had the courage to do it, and I look forward to sharing more about what our troops have accomplished. So I thank you again for the opportunity to address this committee. I ask that God would continue to watch over our troops in harm's way, and those that have fallen are always in our memory, and we fight to ensure their legacy. Look forward to answering the questions of this committee.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. General Kane, you're recognized. You're recognized.
Thank you, Chairman Rogers, Ranking Member Smith, and members of this committee. Thanks for having me today. I'm honored to be here today alongside the Honorable Pete Hegseth and Honorable Jay Hurst to testify on the President's fiscal year 2027 budget. I'm grateful for the opportunity to testify today, and I'm thankful for your continued partnership in support of our warfighters defending the homeland and our interests around the world. It's a privilege to speak with you today about the foundation of America's strength, our 2.8 million members of our joint force. And I'm continually inspired by our soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, Guardians, and Coast Guardsmen, and our civilians standing the watch for our nation, supported always by their families. Each and every one of them could have chosen another path, but they don't. They choose to serve and to do something more important than themselves. And every day they meet the nation's challenges, from combat operations to critical support roles, with the courage, tenacity, and grit that keeps our nation strong and secure. I would also like to express my deep gratitude for the 39 members of our joint force who've passed away during my time as the chairman, including 14 who've passed during Operation Epic Fury. As the Secretary said, we are deeply grateful for each of them and their families, and their names will never be forgotten. As the chairman, my duty is to ensure our civilian leadership has a comprehensive range of military options and the associated risks that to those leaders who make the nation's hardest decisions, and offer my military advice privately. I owe the President, the Secretary, and the Congress the truth at every turn. My blueprint for this role is General George C. Marshall. His commitment to civilian control of the military and nonpartisan military remains a constant standard and something I borrow from often. I strive daily to emulate his candor, delivering the facts to our leaders and telling them always what they need to hear, not always what they want to hear. And once a decision is made, executing it with absolute dedication, and that is the demand of our profession. I sit here today before you representing our incredible joint
fell
force,
into
and
negative
I want to
territory the
emphasize
next week.
my commitment to
Lowest
this
on
committee
record.
and the Congress that I will always follow General Marshall's steadfast example as by providing clear and candid nonpartisan military advice and working together with our civilian leaders to ensure that our military does the things that we must do, being prepared to deter and
Didn't
defend our
100 extending
nation,
gain
and if called
0.5%.
upon, win our wars around the world. America's joint force is operational at its core, purpose-built for the realities of a complex and ever-changing world. We are organized, trained, and equipped to execute the most demanding missions across the globe with unrivaled precision. Over the past year, our warfighters have consistently demonstrated exactly what it means to be the most capable, adaptable, and most professional military force in the world. Our shared goals are to ensure the joint force maintains the strategic initiative and advantage, projecting American power and responding to global challenges on our nation's terms. During operations Rough Rider, Midnight Hammer, Southern Spear, Absolute Resolve, and Epic Fury, the joint force executed globally integrated operations and missions alongside our interagency and international partners. And once our civilian leaders made a decision, we make those missions our own, demonstrating the unmatched capability to seamlessly synchronize our capabilities across all domains, from the seabed to cislunar space and higher. We're able to accomplish these complicated missions and work because we draw from a deep, enduring reservoir of training, professionalism, and commitment. Our operational tempo is high, but we're designed to sustain and rebuild our strength continuously. We build readiness every day. We train professionals every day. We learn and sharpen our edges every day by being learning leaders. And I am incredibly proud to be a member of this Joint Force team, proud of the team, and proud of the commanders. As the chairman and the ranking member both said, we live in complex and dynamic times where global risk is scaling. The complexity of today's modern battlefields demands our constant adaptation, innovation, and partnership with this Congress. As a joint force, we're up to the challenge. We're built for this environment. However, continued success is not guaranteed by past achievements. It must be secured through forward-looking partnerships with Congress. And to drive this pace and change and maintain our superiority, we need timely, predictable, and sustained investment. The resources we discussed today are critical to modernizing our force and ensuring that whatever threats emerge in the future, that your joint force is ready to meet those challenges, to protect our interests,
What's up, Eli?
defend our nation. As the Secretary, the President's fiscal year 2020.
Well, it's progressing. It's we got a lot going on. I got to fix plumbing. Got to put a new HVAC system. But yeah, HVAC has been dead I know Sam lived in there. He said I was in two rooms, Jim. I went from so I had space heater and AC, you know, from here to here.
And what truly sets our people apart from other military
All right, sorry about that. I had to take a call real quick.
Out there across the components and with General Grinkovich, and he's doing a great job out there, as the committee knows.
And indeed, as we conclude,
So I didn't like this range, so I was originally moved it up, but I took 20 points out. So
unprecedented to ally with the United States. You have united Latin America, unprecedented
so we're plus.
to ally with the United States. You've united the Indo-Pacific, unprecedented to ally with the United States, and united NATO and EU,
Plus 20 on the day.
to ally with the United States. You're achieving peace and deterrence through strength. I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. Chair, I recognize the gentleman.
Fitch Ratings says recent dollar strength could unwind if oil prices fall back.
We'll take this off since we're not in the trade anymore. Let's get rid of that. But
to prepare for an extended blockade of Iran. It goes on to describe again the thinking behind the strategy, but also talks about how prolonging the blockade is going to continue to drive up energy costs all over the world. Given the ever-changing messages from this administration on the war strategy and timeline, I really honestly don't expect you to confirm or deny the journal story. But one thing is clear: the number of transits across the Strait of Hormuz has dropped to the lowest level since the war began, and commodity markets have stopped listening to the happy talk. And crude oil prices this morning have risen to the highest level since the war in Ukraine started in 2022. AAA reported this morning that the average price of gas is $4.30 a gallon, up 30 cents in 1 week. Diesel's average is $5.45. My friend Mr. Garamendi says in California it's closer to $8 a gallon. And fertilizer prices have also hammered farmers at exactly the same time we're beginning planting all across the country. Aside from the damage this war has done to American consumers, farmers, and small businesses, I want to focus for a minute on the cost of the war and our military readiness, particularly to other combatant commands. Mr. Secretary, you put out a national defense strategy in January, which listed the threat assessment facing our country. China was number one, with the second largest, most powerful military in the world, of course. Russia's nuclear force clearly was number two in terms of the threat they pose to the homeland. North Korea, which has missiles that actually can reach U.S. territory, was ranked number three, and Iran was described as, quote, and accurately after Midnight Hammer, that Iran's regime is weaker and more vulnerable than it has been in decades. Again, this was before February 28th, when the decision was made to go in the military strikes on Iran. So today we have three carrier strike forces in Central Command. The Indo-PACOM, which is where Russia and China are operating their navies, 52% of the globe. We have one carrier strike group in Japan, George Washington.
Macklin says that we wouldn't characterize today's comments as forward guidance.
And frankly, what our national defense strategy, is just blindingly obvious in terms of what this war is doing. Gerald Ford is on day 312 of its deployment. They've gone through fires, plumbing problems, and again, an extended deployment, which, in my opinion, is hitting readiness as hard as anything I've seen in the time that I've been on this committee. So, General Kane, in terms of, again, the carrier strike groups that are over there, assuming that we get to some end game here, Ford is not going over to the Indo-Pacific to buttress the gap that exists there today. They've got to go back into pretty heavy repair and availability in terms of trying to recover from their deployment. So again, in terms of just the decisions about where we're putting people and putting really the most powerful part of our Navy, can you explain again what that means?
Yeah, so 71.72 I got out. Looks like I got a good out, just taking my 20 and running.
Powerful presentation in terms of the buildup that's happening in that part of the world. How is that aligned with the national defense strategy that was just put out by this administration in January?
Well, sure. First,
This would have been-
I want to echo your comments on the Ford Strike Group. Fantastic.
Maybe a
work
retrace
by
down to the one to
incredible
71.69 might be a
not
quick
just
short,
the
small
Ford
short.
herself, but
Not
the
thrilled
other
about it.
ships as well on a historic cruise, doing incredible work for the nation.
Excuse me, how does that balance?
Volume is low.
Yes, sir. Happy to.
On my brokerage, I can see the volume, which I don't have on this, but
the national security strategy and national defense strategy are frameworks.
It's FOMC
But the
day, so
president
everyone just kind of sitting on their
employs,
hands for the most part.
National force and power based on the political and security situations that a president deems appropriate to use that military
This level
force. There's always trade-offs.
has
in
worked
all of these
again
things.
for a long. Like I did the same exact trade yesterday.
Confident
and it
that the
worked
president always
for
carefully
26. We got
considers
20
these
today.
readiness trade-offs. And I'm sure he is.
Oil
making his
is
case based on,
up to
based on
105
the
or
military
something
options
stupid.
that we've presented with the
Oh.
associated risks and
To
advice.
make a trade going after a regime that's weaker and more vulnerable than it has been in decades, which is quote unquote from the Defense Strategies report, just not, in my opinion, common sense.
Gentleman's time's expired. As you can tell from looking at the dice, votes have been called. So we are now going to stand in recess to the end of this vote. I expect it to take 20 to 25 minutes, but we are now in recess.
All right, so oh yeah, that one stopped me. I lost on that thing. That's all right. It was like $50 or something. So yeah, look at this 105. So the real correlation is not really happening the way it should be. So oil is up this high, yet the markets are not truly dumping. Let's see. The Dow never. Oh, that was a little run up. Oh, NQ made a pretty good run. That would have been a nice trade. So you've gotten in there. Yeah, it would have been a nice 80 plus point play. I'll take 20 on mine. That's all right. I have no problem. So we're looking at 120 up here on the NQ. The Russell's in the dumper, and the Dow's in the dumper. There was a what time is it? 11 o'clock. We had 3 hours to the FOMC. This would have been a nice little short. Not nice. Let's see. Would have 71.70. You're up 4 or 5 points. We don't want to hear that anymore, even when those guys come back. Bunch of talking heads. like to see some good news and see oil dump and this thing rip. So I told you I'd do the look back. So this 1 minute, this works, right? First one worked, second one worked. So using the 1 minute in this kind of market is pretty effective. On the 5 minute worked here if you did it, and not really 71.6. Yeah, it was. I could say you could call this that worked. This didn't. This did. So yeah, if 3 of the 4 are looking good, like it worked, then it's a good. But when you just get 2 or 3 that just didn't work, what makes you think the third one's going to work? That's what I found. That's been one of my biggest keys. I think I want to get Chad after I stop trading here a little bit. They can set things. Maybe get Chad to start moving the garage so I can grab him and the 3 of us can go to the garage and give him some direction. Okay. Oh man, I walked away and look at this. Should have been short. I went to get some food. Yeah, that 1 minute cross. That's what I've been trading the last several days. So let's just say we got in here, 71.66. Yeah, we'd be up. Not like we're getting rich, but we'd be up 7 points going our direction. Man, oil, no sign of that thing coming down. Good for you, brother. I made the run up and I missed this down. You got 30 points out of you trade NQ, right? Yeah, Matt, I wish we can get more people to believe that this 920 cross is legit, man. It's a simple strategy. Yeah, that's a nice move. I've gotten in here at, let's just say it's 71.69. Oh, we got a quick 15 points. Oh, sweet. Good for you, brother. There you go. Oh, okay. 30 ticks. I got it. There you go. Yeah, I think I'm gonna sit it out for a while too. I'm gonna run, brother. Take care. See you guys.